A cemetery of cars, trains, bikes, and planes often presents a gruesome spectacle, and many of the largest cemeteries of vehicles can boast a rather interesting history. Cemetery of Soviet submarines on the Kola Peninsula. You can find this cemetery in the bay unnoticeable located beyond the Arctic Circle. On the far territory of Russia, there is a Soviet submarine cemetery. Starting from the 1970s, old military submarines, many of them were atomic, simply left the bay on the isolated Kola Peninsula. The Soviet leadership was obviously too busy fulfilling orders for the construction of new submarines to care about the disposal of old ones. Access to the area is prohibited without permission. Therefore, information about the cemetery remains quite limited. It is known that some of these submarines were finally sent for disposal in the 1990s due to concerns about water pollution. But the image of Google Maps indicates that at least 7 submarines still rest in the bay. Train cemetery in Bolivia. High in the Andes, in the southwest of Bolivia, lies the world's largest salt desert, Salar de Uyuni. In 1888, when the local mining industry began to grow rapidly, British engineers were invited to build a railway to the Pacific Ocean. Despite sabotage by the indigenous Aymara people, who considered it a threat to life, the road was completed in 1892. However, by the 1940s, the mining economy collapsed due to the fact that the minerals were exhausted. Since the railway was no longer used, many locomotives were simply abandoned in the salt flats. Even today, this looks unusual. A multitude of rusty steam engines, many of which were made in Britain, smolder in the rays of the scorching desert sun. Since the fences and barriers were removed, most of the metal parts were stolen. Some of the dismantled parts were thrown in the vicinity. There were some plans to turn this cemetery into a museum, but so far the trains remain abandoned to the mercy of the locals and the aggressive environment. Motorcycle cemetery in New York. Near the Erie Canal, in Lockport, New York, there is a warehouse that became a legend in the biker community. The warehouse once belonged to a man named Cole, the owner of bike dealerships. Buying cheap Japanese motorcycles and shares of defunct dealers, he accumulated a huge amount of rare vehicles. For his collection, he even bought a building, but could not realize his idea. Photos of the cemetery first appeared in April 2010 on Flickr, and fans rushed to the bike cemetery in an attempt to find rare motorcycles and spare parts for them.